Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Rocky Lalvani. He is somebody who teaches the profit first system. So feel free to shorten him to the profit answer man. He teaches people how to ensure that they get paid and make a profit a priority. He's a certified profit first professional, and he implements Mike Michalowicz's profit first system. We change the accounting formula of sales minus expenses equals profit to sales minus profit equals expenses. We'll talk to him a little bit more about how that math works. And this ensures that for business owners, the profit part comes. It's not all about money. People come before money. And I think the emphasis here really is on people and on the business owners and their lifestyle. And that's why it's such a perfect match with what we believe in the show, which is we are here not just to work for the sake of working, but to enjoy life and to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So Rocky started with nothing. His parents immigrated to the United States when he was only 2 years old. And his parents at that time were in their 40s. It was his parents' second time starting over in life as they moved here to experience this American dream that we're all living. In spite of a lot of struggle and his mom also passing away when Rocky was very young at 7, he has been able to achieve financial and life success. He loves to share his journey and to inspire all of us to achieve our dreams even faster. Welcome to the show, Rocky.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here today.
So great to have you. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur, as I see where you are now, but how did you get here?
So it's a long journey, but I'll keep it short. I was very entrepreneurial as a kid, but when I got out of college, I didn't know the value of my skills. I didn't know how to build a business around them. And so I ended up getting a job. And I always say good is the enemy of great. And I had a pretty good career. I didn't work a lot. I made good money. And so I've enjoyed that for what it was worth. But throughout that point, even though I made the money, I realized there was more to life. And I was like, what do I really want to do? What lights me up? What's fun? And also, what is something that people want and need help with? And I just was absolutely shocked to realize most business owners don't understand their finances. And I came to realize the reason why is they're people, and most people don't understand their finances. And you become a business owner, and if you don't understand it, you're going to struggle. And it was a skill that I've always had and I've always developed. And so I partnered with Mike in Profit First because it was how I was already doing things. And I was like, this is a good partnership. So here we are. We help business owners to make more and work less.
So tell us about Profit First, because I've read the book. So I am a Profit First believer. I think it's phenomenal and it just breaks it down so well. But tell us in your words, what is Profit First? What is this theory and practice, and how are you involved in it?
Mike wrote this book called Profit First after he blew up his business and lost all his money. And he's, wait a minute, how did I get this so wrong? And one of the things he realized during that was that he was given the wrong equation for profit. So your accountant tells you sales minus expenses equals profit. And it's that number at the bottom of the page. But that means it's an afterthought. It's not intentional, right? You're all told pay yourself first. And yet, with that equation, you're paying yourself last. And he said, why don't we do sales minus profit equals expenses? Why aren't we paying ourselves first Why aren't we taking our profit first and then constraining our expenses? And I think for most business owners, what it comes down to is they just think it's a business expense. So why not? Or I'm reinvesting in my business. So why not? And they're not putting intentionality behind it. And so I think as business owners, we spend a lot more money than we really should, myself included at times. And what Profit First does is it starts to put the guardrails around it. And it's really a simple system. It's based on bank accounting. And the reason Mike did it based on bank accounting is because most business owners don't look at their accounting software. They look at their bank balance and they either spend or they realize they have to go sell. And so that's what they basically do. And so he took that habit and he said, how do I leverage it to make it work to their advantage? And basically, what we do is we set up bank accounts. And on a regular basis, we take the money that comes into our business. We give each dollar a purpose. We send it to that bank account to do that purpose. And then we have a lot more clarity. So the accounts are the first one is the income account. This is where all your money comes in. So you always know how much money came in. And then, of course, we send it to profit because profit comes first. Then we send it to your pay because most business owners underpay themselves. Then we put money aside for taxes. So when it's time to pay the tax bill, we can stroke a check. And then lastly, we constrain our expenses and we put the money in the expense account and say, this is what I need to run my business on. And I need to live within that budget, so to speak. And I know people don't like the word budget, but you got to control your expenses because you can't grow your way to wealth. You have to have a gap between what comes in and what goes out. And this makes that possible.
And so for everyone but I have to spend more to make more, like the spending is like the engine that's going to lead to more revenue. How, if I limit my spending to just what's left over after paying myself this profit that maybe my business just isn't generating a profit yet. So how do people get that wheel rolling to where they're bringing in enough revenue so that they have enough left over in that very last account, the business expense account, that they can actually operate the business and fund it?
I think there's two parts to your question, right? The first part is, am I a startup? In which case, how long is it going to take me to get profitable? How long is it going to take me to get more revenue than expenses? But if you're an ongoing business and you're not profitable, then no offense, you have a hobby. And you've got to make a choice there. Do I want a hobby or do I want a business? And if I've got a business, then we've got to figure out how to build efficiencies and how to build systems to be able to do that. Now, one of the main reasons this might happen is maybe you're not appropriately pricing what you're selling. Too often we underprice ourselves. And if that's the case, then it's time to fix your pricing and charge what it's going to cost you to run the business. So there's a whole variety of other reasons that might come up. For the startup, though, look, I understand. Okay, it's going to take me 6 months to get to profitability. That's fine. What we do is we have 6 months of expenses, but then in the 7th month, you got to start covering your expenses. Otherwise, you've got a problem. And the question is, when is that problem going to end? Maybe next month. Maybe next month goes on for a little bit too long.
Yeah, you don't want to get on that sort of wheel of not enough this month to pay myself a profit, not enough this month to pay myself a profit. And I think a lot of small business owners, when you hear that a lot of small businesses fail, it's maybe because they weren't making a profit and couldn't survive and couldn't make it. And maybe they were just spending expenses first and trying to live off of what was left over versus looking at it the other way around, which would be that profit first methodology. So how do you help people? You're an expert in this profit first methodology. So do you characterize yourself as someone who helps people with accounting or with business structure? Or how do you work with people to help them implement this system into their business?
So, profit first is one small part of what we do. What we realize is when we look at a business, we look at all businesses as a math equation. And the math equation starts with lead flow. How much, how many people are interested in doing business with you? How many of those people convert into customers? How much are you charging those customers? How often do they buy? And this way we can start to determine what the revenue side of the equation is. Then we start to look at the expense side, like where is all your money going? So once you've generated your money, where are all of the money flowing out of the business? And then the third part of what we do is where is the cash disappearing? Because your P&L might say you're profitable, but there's no cash. And that drives people up the wall. It's because the cash disappears on the balance sheet. Most people don't know how to read the balance sheet, including accountants. So it's not your fault. It's just that these reports weren't designed for business owners. They were designed for bankers and for other people to look at your business, not for you to build a profitable business. And so I think that's part of the problem that we all face in doing that. So we actually dig through the entire business from beginning to end, and we help them to build it correctly.
And of course, respecting anonymity, what are some of your favorites or case studies or business situations where you came in and you feel you had the most impact, or maybe that impacted you the most because of a unique circumstance or situation?
Let's talk about two businesses. One, I had a gentleman come to me. He had been in business a long time. He never seemed to be able to take enough money out of the company. And it was a discipline problem, quite frankly. And he came to me and said, look, I'd like to retire in 3 years. I'd like to walk away with $500,000 after taxes. And looked at his business. I said, we can do this. And so we started working together. And then COVID hit. And actually, his business increased in COVID. So he actually did better. And a little over a year into it, hey, we're doing really well working together. I want to shoot for $1 million. I said, okay, we can do that. You are doing well. And in just over 3 years, we were able to generate $1 million that he was able to then distribute and retire with it at the end of the journey. So it's just the consistency of just because I have money, I don't need to spend it. And I think that's what a lot of us face. And so for him, it was just creating that monthly discipline month after month. And once he started seeing success, he just kept doing it. And we worked together for that period of time. And then I had another business owner, and this happens a lot with seasonal businesses. So his summer business and in the year-round business really is pressure washing. But in the winter, they do Christmas lighting. And so we started to look at his numbers, and I'm like, you do realize that 80% of your profits come from Christmas lights. And so we started to shift his business to stop focusing so much on doing pressure washing, start focusing on where the profits are actually coming from in your business. And by doing that, he was able to grow his profitability dramatically. So again, work less, make more. Every business might offer a couple of different types of services. Which one of those services is truly driving your profitability? And which one of them is actually sucking cash from you and really not providing to your bottom line? So those are the things that we dig through and we figure out. And then you can make wiser decisions at that point.
So I love this. And in the book, I've read the book, so I know this, but it has a range of a profit margin, right? Like what should a business be producing as far as profit as a percentage of revenue on average? I mean, it's so different for different industries and for different stages of a business's life, right? But what are those ranges? Because I want people listening to think about their own business, whatever they're working on right now, or the business they're planning to start, and either have a goal and also maybe compare to where they are now. Because maybe if someone's right now at 5% profit, maybe that's really low compared to where they could or should be. So, what's the range of acceptable, normal profit levels for a business, percentage wise?
So in the book, Mike uses averages, and the averages are between 5 and 17, depending on the size of the business. I'll be honest, if your business is less than 10% profitable, I assure you, you're going to be in trouble one day. And the reason I say that is you have one bad month or two bad months, and things go bad really quickly. And so our goal is that you should at least at a minimum have a 10% profit. But if you're a solopreneur or you're a small business owner, your business profits can be much higher. Now, you also have to combine profit and your pay. So a lot of business owners aren't even paying themselves. They're taking their profit as pay. But when you calculate their hourly labor, they're not even making minimum wage. So you have to look at the full picture. Are you paying yourself a worthwhile wage for what you do? And is your business generating a profit for the investment that you made into that business? And so that's where those two numbers come from. The more, the better. I've seen businesses with very high percentages, and there's other businesses that are barely eking by, if not losing money.
I think you just blew a lot of people's minds when they realized that they weren't thinking of paying themselves for their labor and the business as an entity, as a business venture, profiting as two separate concepts. Because I think a lot of, especially solopreneurs, but many entrepreneurs who work in their own business, they see the profit as their salary, right? The profit is what I'm being paid. But so go into that a little bit more because I think that's an aha moment for a lot of people out there.
At the end of the day, if you're paying yourself profit, A, are you paying yourself consistently every month, right? Does it meet your personal needs? And if you actually compared it to the time you put in, how much are you making per hour? Because for a lot of business owners, it might be better for them to go get a job if they are not making enough for that. And I think a lot of business owners are afraid to pay themselves. They keep wanting to reinvest in the business. And I think that is a mistake. And it's not that you shouldn't invest in your business. It's that if I'm going to make an investment in a business, I expect a return on my investment. I expect to know when my cash is coming back. Most business owners who invest in their business don't set themselves up to that standard. And they tend to lose a lot of money without thinking twice about it.
And another way that I look at it too is if your business is generating enough to pay you a salary commensurate with the role that you play, plus it's profitable, that means someday you could conceivably replace yourself by using that salary portion to pay someone to do that job that you've been doing, but your business as a whole is still making you profit. So you're still getting paid, but you're no longer working the business. And that is the magic sauce, right? Ultimately, for a business owner to make your business sellable and to also make your business a lot more passive for yourself after you've gone through the trouble of building it up to where it is. Some people would prefer to either shift their focus to a new, different business or maybe take some time off, a sabbatical, whatever it might be, right?
That is absolutely true. And those are the choices you have to make. But you've got to be intentional with it. You've got to create a scoreboard. You have to know how you're doing on achieving your goals. And if you're not measuring and you're not looking at it every month, how do you know if you're doing well or you're not doing well? And I think that's the problem.
So, what are some of your favorite industries to work in?
I'm not going to say I have favorites. What I tend to do and what I'm more interested in is the behavior of the owner. Are they willing to show up? Are they coachable? Do they take responsibility for their actions? Or are they full of excuses? They can't seem to keep their schedule. I don't have time for that. So it's more about, is the business owner somebody that's fun to work with? And are they willing to work together to be able to achieve their goals or not? I work with a ton of different industries. What's really cool about that, though, is we steal ideas from one industry and we bring it to another. And so all of them get to do better because we have a lot of cross pollination going on. Plus, different parts of the economy go through different economic cycles. So if one part's cycling down, another part might be cycling up, and I don't have to ride as much of a roller coaster. So it makes my life a little simpler.
That makes sense. So you've seen a lot of balance sheets. You've seen the financial insides of a lot of different businesses, small, large. You know a lot about this area. So next, let's speak to people who are still in a job that they're maybe not that fond of, stuck in a cubicle, maybe just working a 9 to 5, who are not yet entrepreneurs, but would love to start their own business. So for someone that doesn't maybe have a ton of money to invest, so it's not like they can, invest $1 million and buy a big franchise or do something. But if they want to start their own thing and they're pretty scrappy and they're creative and they're hardworking, what are some businesses that you think they should explore and consider because you've seen that the numbers tend to really work for that kind of small entrepreneur?
So I think any kind of coaching businesses or knowledge businesses tend to have a high profit percentage. Tech and software and those also tend to have a higher percentage. And it comes back to what you said. The higher the cost to start the business, the more overhead, the harder it's going to be to get going, right? If you have to go open a restaurant, it takes a lot of money to open a restaurant. And by the way, most restaurants are not great businesses. Many of them lose money left and right. Having a lower barrier to entry and building it on the side before you leave your job, and also using profit first at work. So the same principles work. If you get a paycheck and you can save 20% of your paycheck, then you can start to build up capital to start your business and to have capital so that when you finally quit your job, you have a little bit of cushion to get you through. Because the reality is, most businesses take about 3 years to build. And I don't think people plan for that long of a time period. They start a business, they think they've got some great idea, and they think they're going to start making money in 60 days. The reality is that rarely, if ever, happens. And if you think it's that good, then before you quit your job, you should be able to start selling and bringing in money and having it. And if you don't, then there's a problem.
So, what are your sort of words of motivation for anyone that dreams of being a business owner, but is just scared they're going to lose it all, lose their investment, have to crawl back and beg for their old job back? And there's like a level of bravery involved when somebody becomes an entrepreneur and plants their flag and says, I am starting a business and I will be self-employed. And here is my business plan. But so there's a lot of people I think that have those dreams and aspirations, but they have not pulled the trigger and started to implement. But someone like you've coached people through this. You've seen businesses grow. You've seen the pitfalls. You've seen the success stories. What would you say to someone that is just hesitant and doesn't have that confidence yet?
Technically, you're a business owner. You just happen to have one client, and it's the one you work for. And if you're clawing and begging for that client, you really don't have a very secure position, do you? Someone else is in charge of your income, which is a problem. And so you need to do something about that. The second thing is start. Like until you start, you really don't understand what needs to get done. And I think that's a big part of the problem. You can't go anywhere until you start. And so you got to get out and get moving. And if you don't start, then we're going to be in trouble. So that's the big kicker there is just take action. And again, do it on the side. It's not like you have to go start from scratch. Start building it up before you go jump.
Love it. Great advice. Rocky, how does someone get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your services and what you do and to follow you? And I know you're out there a lot. You help so many people. I would love to know how people can connect with you if they want to follow up.
So if you'd like to learn more about what we do and how we do it, and also learn at the same time, I have a podcast called Profit Answer Man. And on the podcast, we share everything we do for our clients. We don't hold anything back. So check out the podcast, see if it's something of interest. In the podcast is all our contact information. So go learn and see if I'm somebody you want to do business with.
Amazing. And I know that you have your Profit Tool Kit as a gift for our listeners. As always, we're going to add that to podcastguestgift.com, our podcast portal to all the great things that our guests provide for our listeners. Rocky, it's been amazing chatting with you. It's always such a good reminder. We really have to set ourselves up for success in our personal lives, but especially in our businesses so that our businesses can provide for us and give us that lifestyle that we want as business owners. So, Rocky, thank you for sharing your expertise and what you know and helping us all be better versions of ourselves.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness, but money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use the coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.